Hey, y'all. Welcome to the When We Walk podcast. This is a podcast where we discuss the questions we all ask as we walk through life. I'm Shireen.
I'm Micah.
Let's chat. Okay, Joran. We have a jar right next to us.
Yes.
Okay. What is it?
So we're going to play Would You Rather. Do you know how to, have you ever played Would You Rather where there's two options,
that's an old school game,
which
right?
one you would rather do.
All right. So we're saying for ourselves or what we think the other person would want to do?
You can both say, well,
Ooh,
you tell us. You're the rule maker.
Interesting.
I think you should guess what the other person would say. So there's four questions in there. You can each take turns and do one at a time.
Okay.
And then, guess what the other person would say and then reveal.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, you start.
You want me to start?
Mm-hmm. Okay. You got all your stuff.
I gotta
your tea.
All this. I know I do. Ooh.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're going
that
to...
over there.
Okay. Got it.
So I'm going to read it, and I'm going to say what I think he would rather do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
Would you rather give up social media or give up TV shows and movies? Oh my gosh, this is so way too easy.
Is it?
Yes.
For him, I would be interested to know what he would say about me.
Oh, I know.
His would be he'd give up social media in like 2 seconds.
Easy.
It's easy.
Yeah. And
Maybe
you would
with-
give up TV.
I'll give up
you don't
TV
care.
and movies. I don't care. I never would. that was pretty easy.
Do you have like a movie or TV series?
I'm not like
hard to
deep
give
into
up?
a lot of shows. I mean, I watch a lot of sports.
Yeah.
So if I had to give that up versus social media, it's a no-brainer.
That
it's
makes sense.
Sports all day for me.
But the funny thing is you don't do either of those very much.
No.
We don't have time in our lives to watch TV, or you're not big on scrolling social media as much either,
I will say I've been, we started the Bear in London.
we did, and we
And
haven't
I'm kind of bothered that we haven't been able
haven't
to,
gotten back
since
to
we've
it.
gotten home, we haven't been able
and
to.
only Murders in the Building because our son now is into it and he's like dying to watch it with us.
10 o'clock every night.
That's the hard
and I'm
is
ready for
we
bed.
do like to watch some shows together or with our kids now, but it's just the timing of it all. We're so tired
Young
and they're
Sheldon
ready.
has become a
Young
family
Sheldon.
favorite.
But our kids want to watch at 10 o'clock at night
Yeah.
and we are like, can you tuck us in? That's okay.
That's true.
Your turn.
All right. Would you rather...
You gotta decide. You gotta answer
Okay.
for me.
I know. Would you rather live without music or live without books? Easy.
What do you?
You would rather live without music.
Probably.
Yeah.
Oh,
you
but
read,
that's a hard one.
Nah. You read so much.
I do.
And I don't know that you ever listen to, like when
do.
you're listening, when you've got your AirPods in around the house, you are always
mostly listening
to a book.
Yeah.
You're very rarely
A
listening
book
to
or a
music.
podcast. I am.
Yeah.
The only time I listen to music is if I am doing something that require, like when I'm sitting with Jesus.
Yeah.
Or if I'm like cooking sometimes, because listening to a book and trying to like read a recipe, that's hard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Here's yours.
Okay.
Would you rather travel to the past or to the future? Oh, I'm trying to decide for you what you would do. I think you would travel to the future because
I would.
you like what's coming.
I do. I spend time rethinking what has been.
Yes, you do. That's why this
constantly
is hard.
reevaluating what I could have
something?
done better. But if I could just go spend time somewhere, I'd definitely future for me.
Also, we watched all the Back to the Futures with our kids this summer. One, they're very stressful movies, and the kids were like, "This needs to end. This happens every single time." But the fact of like, he goes to the past, he goes to the future, like there is like this weird like, do I want to know, or would I rather go to the past and kind of like redo some things?
I like history to some degree, but yeah, I'm curious about what's coming.
Okay. All right.
Good question.
Last one.
All right. Last one. Wow. Okay. If I can get it out of here. All right. Would you rather lose the ability to lie or believe everything you're told?
Oh,
That's
hard to answer
that
for
is
someone
a really good one,
else.
Jordan. Wow.
Wait, say it again. Read it again.
Would you rather lose the ability to lie or believe everything you're told? I think you would
kind of already believe everything I'm told.
That's what I was about to say. I think you would rather.
What's wrong with me?
I think you would rather lose the ability to lie because you don't, and you're not good at it when you try.
No, I'm terrible at it.
And you do pretty much believe everything you're told. So
Am I
you and Charlie are a lot alike in that way. Y'all have a similar personality in that way.
I
so
do.
I think that for you.
Because
for sure.
I feel like I try to be as honest as like to the core as who I can be integrity wise, and just like I hope and think everyone else is.
But believe everything you're told, which means you would believe lies.
Oh, that is painful.
Yeah.
But to be honest, that has happened in my life.
Yeah,
so
we've all been there. Yeah. That's
I don't
a good
know.
one.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
y'all
like
bring
a
that
ethical-
up at your next
That's
dinner
an
party.
ethical dilemma right there.
Yes. There you
That's
go,
great.
everyone. Bring that
Okay.
up at your next party. Thanks,
That's
Jordan.
good.
You always come up with some really challenging and creative games.
That was great.
Keep them coming for us.
Okay.
Okay, so shift to back to the topic of our kids and late nights. I feel like we're in a phase now where we are ready to go to bed. We are brushing our teeth, getting ready to go to bed. Our kids always turn their phones in our bedroom. That's just a good tech practice for all you parents out there. They turn their phones in our bedroom. So, if we need to check things or it's just healthy. And they come in when we're getting ready for bed. And that is always when they want to have all their conversations.
Yeah.
We're like dying to go to sleep or have some quiet time. And they are ready to plug their phone in, plop on our bed, and start talking about their lives.
Yeah.
It is a crazy shift.
It is.
And they fill our bedroom, and you get annoyed.
I'm so tired. I'm getting tireder and tireder. That is if you can have kids earlier in life than later in life. That's
that's a good reason.
If I were doing this in my 30s instead of my 40s, it might be different. But
Yeah. But anyway, all that to say, like, it's great.
Yeah.
In some ways what kids, they do say their melatonin doesn't kick in until like almost midnight, I think now, like physiologically. And so that's why teenagers stay up later and sleep in later. And so the way I've decided is our kids finally turn off their screens. They're detached from whatever distractions are out there, and they are able to start processing some deeper thoughts of their day, of their life, and they bring them to us because they're in our room, which is also a great reason to put your kids' phones in your room, more interaction. And last night, Laylee brought a very interesting topic question to us. She's 17. She's in a season where she's starting to think about her future more. She's got dreams and aspirations, and also just, she's kind of a dreamer, not so much a planner as much, but she sees some things she wants in life, and she's taking steps towards them. And even, I think maybe what spurred on some of this was a little bit of a disappointment yesterday. Like she didn't make a thing that she was auditioning for. And there were some questions that came with that, some bigger questions about life and decisions. And I don't know, you frame it better because she was kind of all over the place. I mean, she's 17.
Yeah, it was like typical Laylee question. It was like funny, but also there was like some depth.
A lot
there,
of depth,
like a little heart window into her soul. And I think it's a question that we all ask in different shapes or forms, maybe not in the form she presented it because she's so creative. But
I know.
She said, if God's plans for my life are like this beautiful house with all these wonderful things inside, why does it feel like I'm having to crawl through the bushes and then climb over a barbed wire fence and then sneak through the front yard and find a crack in a window to squeeze into it? And it was just such a great picture.
Instead of God just
opening the
front door where there's a path right in.
Yeah. And I mean, I really do think it illuminates the type of things, the type of question we all ask at different times in life is, where do our dreams, our desires, our hopes, and our plans that we carry, with us through life, where do those fit within God's will? And how is God working to bring those things about in our life, or is he not at all? And
And if there's some strife or pain or just work to get to it, does that mean he's not in it? Or he doesn't want it for me? Or is that just me and my flesh even trying to make it happen?
Yeah. And so she was,
all questions.
And she's connecting, which we often do, like all the wonderful things we hear about God that she's heard growing up. Like he's good, he's kind, he's generous. He gives us the desires of our heart, like these types of things. So where does that fit in what I'm currently experiencing, which feels like none of that stuff is coming my way? So I think it's a great question that we've all asked. And
I think sometimes we compare because we're watching other people's lives. I think especially the younger generation, and Jordan, maybe some of this is sparking something in you, and maybe you can speak to some of it too, of like you're watching people around you even more so because of social media, right? Where before we didn't have that. It was literally the people in our neighborhood or we went to school with, and that was it. But you're watching, it doesn't matter even who or how many people, but the more people it is, the more you can feel even like it's not happening for me.
Right.
And that front door is swinging wide open for everyone else. So God must really be opening the doors for them and giving them all their dreams and desires. And I am over here stuck, questioning, wondering, scrambling. And I think you can, I don't know.
Yep. That only adds to it.
Yeah.
When there's the comparison factor for sure.
Yeah. I wonder, Jordan, does any of that resonate with you? Because you're in that young adult phase of, you know, dreams and desires and kind of what resonates with you?
Yeah. I think it started just from a young age, like just entering into this, like social media, it's new, it's whatever. So I think I got my like Instagram when I was probably way too young, just because it was like no one knew what it was.
Yeah, nobody knew.
It was just like, oh, it's a fun new app.
Yeah.
So
do you know, by the way, the first person who ever told me where I ever learned about Instagram was your dad.
Really?
Yes. BJ came into a meeting and was like, yeah, Sean just sent me a picture of his like where he's on vacation. I was like, what do you mean? This thing called Instagram. He's just sent me.
He sent it to him.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. And BJ was
that
on
is
it too.
so
which
funny.
Is weird.
Yeah. So it just didn't, like no one knew what it would be, but it ended up just being like a highlight reel for everyone's life, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but looking at it from maybe a young perspective, seeing that and like, why isn't my life like this? Or why haven't I don't know, achieved these things? And,
right.
And it just becomes so normalized, I feel like, that it's not really, I mean, we talk about it a lot about how like, oh, social media isn't real, but it feels real sometimes.
It does.
So yeah, it can definitely be hard looking from a different perspective and seeing what everyone else is doing.
Especially because you're still in a phase, you know, even a little further than our daughter, of like, you still want to see the things that God's put in your heart, your dreams and desires fulfilled, and you're comparing them to other people. So that's tough.
Yeah.
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 So
it's a tough deal. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of directions we could probably go with this.
Yeah.
You know, I think you could get deep theological into like where do dreams and desires fit in the will of God and all of that. But there's also just the very practical day-to-day life aspect of like, how do you walk through carrying a level of maybe sometimes disappointment or impatience for what God may be seemingly not doing in your life that you feel like is like a really good thing, you know, that you've been waiting on and expecting. We know people who have been waiting to get married, or people who have been waiting to have children, or waiting for the right job, or to get to the place. And these are all things we began to unpack with her last night. And then her response, and this isn't just to just recap, I think it stirs thoughts, was, you know, we started talking about God. He's always kind. And so he's always doing something good, right? And I believe that. Like, God's always doing something good. It's just who he is. It's how he operates. Even if it doesn't feel good in the moment, it's still good. And then it became this whole conversation around, well,
then how do I know?
Well, no, it was like, are we just like every other religion that believes you have to suffer in order to make your way to heaven? You have to suffer in order to kind of pay penance type thing. And that was like, oh my goodness.
Because she's taken like world religions in high school and stuff.
Yeah.
So she's aware.
Yeah. So I think I guess I'm just saying that to say this brings up all kinds of other related questions when we're in a season of either waiting or disappointment or kind of uncertainty. Is, it brings up all kinds of adjacent questions. Is God good? Is he kind? Is he even there? What's my role in this process? Do I work hard or do I sit back and just trust him? And so there's all kinds of things there.
Right.
And so I think a good place to start is, the first thing is, what is the unchangeable, unmovable character of God in every situation of life in life? And it is that he is love, that he's good, and that he's kind. And as you read through scripture, these are the things that God was just trying to drill into the hearts of humanity for, and pretty much from the beginning, in every scenario, even when it was seasons of difficulty, God was always moving towards, I think of Joseph's story often when I think about these types of questions. It's such a beautiful story of ups and downs in life that eventually resulted in a dream coming true, but not in the way he expected it to come true.
Yeah, I think that's a good
And
story.
one of the themes you see in the life of Joseph over and over again is this little phrase, and God was with him.
Yes.
And God was with him. And God was with him.
Yes.
And I think that's the first thing that we have to remember is not only is he with us, but who is he in his withness of us?
Yes.
He is good. He's kind. He's loving.
We have to trust the one that we're walking with. I think back to Exodus 34, where God tells Moses who he is, right? And we learn that he's saying, I'm Yahweh, the Lord, I'm Yahweh, I'm gracious, compassionate God, slow to anger, abounding in faithful love and truth, maintaining faithful love to 1,000 generations, forgiving iniquity, rebellion, and sin. But he will not leave the guilty unpunished, and bringing consequences to the father's iniquity on the children and grandchildren to the third and fourth generation. And I think that is like the perfect encapsulation of who God is. That his first description is compassionate and gracious.
That's good.
He's slow to anger. Yep. He's abounding in love. But yet he's still going to hold us to a standard. There's still some things that he's asking of us. But I think if we really settle in and find who he is, I think you find it through scripture. And we were telling her this last night, like the more time you spend with God in scripture, learning who he is, being around other people who are followers of Jesus, reading the Gospels, seeing how Jesus lived on earth, reading the, Sermon on the Mount, all of that, I think you will learn his character. And so then when these questions come up, which tend to come up in that season of life, right? Your 20s, your younger years, because you're wondering, like, plans are changing, things are shifting, things might not be as easy as you hope they would be to get to where you want to go. You have to anchor, like you said, in who God is. But to know who God is, you have to spend time with him. And you have to believe it. Yep. And you have to see it. There is evidence of who God is. I can find, we have stories of God and his compassion. We have stories of God and his grace, and we have to share those. That's why the testimony of each other and that's why being in the church matters. It's testimonies that we share with one another and support with one another. But I think too, I think you're right. The first thing is knowing who God is, because then you can walk through these seasons. But I do think about that story of Joseph and think God gives us dreams, like actual physical dreams that we're going to have that are from him. But then also it's okay to dream with God.
Yeah,
like
it really is.
He's a creative God who loves to create, and he wants to do it with us. Right. And so there's nothing wrong with being a dreamer, a creative, dreaming into what your future can be.
Every parent wants their kids to dream with them.
Yeah.
Right?
And to think about that's why we love those phrases of you can do anything if you put your mind to it. And they sound good because there is something in us that wants to dream big, wants to do big things because God created us to do that. And so there's nothing wrong with that, of like desiring whatever is in that house that God has for us, like wanting to go after it, wanting to reach for it. he's given us all different skill sets. For her, it's, she's a performer. She loves to sing. She loves to dance. She loves to act. And, that skill set it's a God-given gift and talent that now, if you partner that with him, he'll grow these dreams and desires. And what our hopes are, what, her hope is he opens doors for her to, in her world, be on Broadway one day, right? But there's steps to get there. There's going to be a lot of disappointment. I think we forget about that piece. And that part's hard.
I think so. And I think a lot of times, I think God does give us dreams. I think he's knit us together in a certain way to desire certain things and want certain things. It doesn't mean that every desire and every want is of the Lord, but as you walk with him, the things that you just can't shake, right? The things that you just constantly go back to, like there's a good chance that if there's something there that you just constantly can't shake it, like it might be the Lord, and it really might be something he's stirring in your heart. I think what helps me also from the story of Joseph is Joseph had a dream that led to a series of events that
that maybe he
were not all that great. Yeah.
He probably shouldn't have said some of the stuff to his brothers. Exactly. He was a little immature in his zeal. Yep.
But then he entered into, when he basically ran Egypt, under the affirmation of Pharaoh, he fulfilled more than his dream. He fulfilled his destiny, and his destiny was to preserve the people of Israel. It was to do good to others.
That's really good.
It wasn't, the dream felt like, I can't wait until I'm worshiped. And he had to go through some stuff to realize God's going to eventually put me in a position of authority, but it's not about me. It's about people.
But and early on, it felt like it was about him.
Right. And so the dream was fulfilled, but the purpose of the dream was not about him being worshiped and being the top dog. The purpose of the dream was so that he, in his position, could bless others. And to me, that is often what God is working out in our lives, is he is taking us through a process to mature us to be able to handle the dream.
That's good.
To be able to handle the destiny. I think many ways, I would say it this way. I think the dream is a hint towards your destiny, but I don't think the dream often is the destiny. Does that make sense?
That's
and
good.
So I think the dream is like what keeps you going. It's like, I feel like God's got this on my life, or I feel like I want to do this, or I'm passionate about this. But as he grows you, matures you, sometimes humbles you,
right?
All of the things that a good father does to prepare their kid for the real world, right? He will eventually, as you step into your destiny, the aha will be like, like it's, the dream was a hint into what I'm actually doing now.
Yeah.
And I think that's more.
That's really good. I've never thought of it that way, but I always think when we talk like this, it's probably why more in your 20s and your younger years, if I don't know how old Joseph was when he got that dream, but he was pretty young, I'm guessing. Yeah. There's a zeal and a passion that comes with some of those.
Like 14 or something.
Oh, wow. Okay. So like, you think you're invincible in those years. You think that I can do anything I want to do, which I actually think God designed us that way so that we can press through and go after those big dreams and strive for them and dream big and want to take the big leaps and steps. But then what we need some wise people around us, some wise counsel to help us, because it will get hard. And I think that's the beauty of Laylee's descriptor. She's realizing some of the steps to get to those dreams are hard. I think about our friend Tammy, who we've talked about so much, who had a passion to go to Asia and serve God in East Asia. And anyway, she was the first time she went there. Like I think she had been a couple of times already, and she knew she wanted to move there. Yeah. Right? Was this it? And so she got on a plane. Like she bought a one-way ticket. I'm going to live in this part of the world. I'm going to help start an orphanage, get children off the streets, raise kids, all of it. She walking down the stairs off the plane, fell, twisted her ankle, twisted or broke.
Broke it. Mm-hmm.
Broke her ankle very first day in this country. Yeah. And it's like, okay, God, she could have used, and she was in her 20s, I think, right? Late 20s. She could have used that as more of a, okay, I'm going to see this as, I guess God doesn't want me here. I think I need to go back. Or this is a step of, I mean, you can see it so many ways. This is the enemy trying to, discourage me. But even if it is the enemy trying to discourage you, I'm going to still see it as God allowed it, but it's going to strengthen me in my resolve and what he has for me here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to press through this one and I'm going to sit in this. I'm going to heal and I'm going to go after some things. And praise God she did, because then she raised 50 plus kids and they're all going after the Lord. And then more kids who they have served in their communities over 20 plus years she was there.
Yeah.
So to me, that is the kind of a little bit of a picture of what
it is. Yeah, because I mean, we're even hearing these same kind of principles thrown around in the parenting world right now. The term lighthouse parents.
Okay.
Is better than a lawnmower parent. A lawnmower parent
we've moved from so many. How many have there been?
There's the helicopter parent.
That was what
who is just like protect. And then there is the lawnmower parent, which is I'm going to mow down any obstacles in your path.
Yes.
Any apparent obstacles so that you have it easy. And now people are saying, actually, the healthier way to prepare our kids for the future is to be a lighthouse parent.
Okay.
And the idea behind a lighthouse parent is I'm going to help guide and lead my kids. I will illuminate what's ahead so that they can be wise.
Right.
And so that they have the wisdom and they can see a good path to go on.
Right. But you can't control the storm coming.
You're not controlling the circumstances. You're just illuminating what's there.
Oh, that's good.
And helping them navigate and understand what's happening around them. And I think many people are saying, like, the parents who parent in that style have kids who are more resilient, who tend to make better choices, who can bounce back from disappointments a little bit better. And so while you're still encouraging them to go after those dreams. It's not a passive thing at all. It's very much engaged. But, and so you think about God in the same way. Now it doesn't, God does control all of our circumstances, or he can control all of it. But to see God allowing us to, like, at times experience some adversity, experience some seasons of waiting, to experience some disappointments along the way. So we learn some different things. And the way that I think about it is God's always up to two things. He's either drawing us closer to him, or he's preparing us for what's ahead.
Yeah, that's good.
I mean, those are the two directions God always, I think, wants us to move in life, is deeper into his heart and more prepared for the calling that's on our life.
No, that's
and
good.
so if you can believe, because what we said at the very beginning, God's always good, kind, loving, then what he's doing in that moment that feels so mysterious or maybe unfair.
Yeah.
You could say, but if he's good, and if he's always wanting to draw me closer to him and prepare me for what's ahead, then how can I respond in the moment?
That's really good.
Like, how can I deal with this disappointment? How can I deal with this rejection? How can I deal with this season of waiting? And the answers are, I mean, first of all, press what you said, press deeper into who God is. Like, open up the word,
remember
open up your heart,
who he
pray,
is. How
worship.
many times does he tell us remember? Like, we forget.
Yeah. And then spend some time reflecting on, like, how might this setback set me up for the future? And how can I respond to this? Can I be like a Georgia football fan real quick and just talk about this?
Always.
So
we can be Georgia
one of the things
fans.
I'm most fascinated about right now is the way Kirby Smart has coached
We love Kirby
our
Smart.
team this year. And so we had a very disappointing loss to Alabama several weeks back, where we were down like by 28 points at one point. And then we came back to take the lead for just like a minute and a half, and then Alabama beat us. And Kirby stood in the end zone, and he before, as the kids were leaving, and he gave every one of them a hug.
I know.
And he told them how much he loved them and how proud he was of them.
I know.
What he chose to focus on was what was deposited in them
Yes.
in that game, and what came out of them in that game, not the final score.
Right.
When they were all
Right.
so disappointed we didn't win, Kirby was saying, but look what came out of you
Yes.
during that game.
Yeah.
Fast forward 4 weeks later. Well, and you could even say this, I don't know, maybe this is getting too deep, but Alabama, who won that game, has struggled ever since.
Yeah.
Had
a couple big losses.
Then you look at us beating Texas this weekend, and I can't help but make the connection of like Kirby instilled, he helped them draw out from that disappointment. What can you gain from this?
Right.
And it prepared them for the next time they were on the road in a hostile environment,
Yep.
in a big game. And that's,
Yeah.
people are going to be like,
That's
Mike,
pretty
get away
extreme,
from
but-
like football kingdom, all that. But I do think there's
still
something,
principles to
I think
learn.
they're principles
Absolutely.
of like, God's a good father. And even in our lowest moments, he's going to come alongside of us, and he's going to cheer us on, and he's going to try and help bring the gold out of the situation.
Yeah.
What can you gain from this situation? What did
Yeah.
you learn? Look in me, how strong you can be. Look how courageous you can be. And that can prepare you for the next time around.
But I think we also need people saying that to
Yeah,
us.
absolutely.
Like, I think we can spend
We need
time
to
with the
echo
Lord.
God's heart in that way.
We have to echo God's heart in that way to people, especially people who are going through those hard questions and wondering, does God even want me to have that? Does he even want me to do that anymore? I don't know. I'm gaining, closed door after closed door and disappointment after disappointment, or I'm waiting so long or whatever. I think that's why we need community. We have to speak that. We have to speak the truth of what God would see in each other, and to encourage to keep going, to encourage to learn from the season, and to be able to keep going into the hopes, the dreams, the desires for whatever that is that God put in your heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we also have to be very, very careful to look to the right or to the left, and that whole comparison.
Be careful about
looking
Yeah.
and looking around us, and judging and thinking, one of the ways Laylee's probably looking at it is like, she didn't make something and some of her friends did.
Yeah, where do I fit in the pack?
Where do I fit? But what is God doing? Does he not care about me? Whether the other people are gaining something, whether they're believers or not, God is writing a different story in them. And he's using different ways to get to their hearts. So we cannot compare our stories in that way. We can learn as we look, but if we get into this like comparison and entitlement or value of what we think God is doing, then I think that's dangerous. And I think we have to be careful to remind ourselves, there's something God's doing in my life. He's preparing me for. I'm trusting that. And he's got that person on a different journey. And I'm going to bless them. I'm going to trust that God's working in their heart in a different way than he's working in mine. And I'm going to focus on kind of the race I'm running in the lane I'm in. And I'm going to do it in community with people that I trust. And so I think that is something we have to do when we're in those seasons of, dreaming with God, hoping we see what's to come, and finding those disappointments along the way, or the struggles.
That's so good. Yep. That's great.
Yeah.
So remember who God is.
Just keep dreaming with him.
Try and lean into him and determine what he's building in you in this season, and be careful about comparison.
Yeah.
But be open to the input and the encouragement of other people who can speak life into you.
That takes wisdom over time.
Yeah.
But then keep dreaming with the Lord.
And you can't fast forward the process. Like God's doing something. And so the things we're sharing are not if you'll just do this, it'll feel great.
Right.
Because it won't feel great, because that's also part of the process. And so I think this is a question we all ask in life, and it is a part of God's good plan for us to sometimes be let down, sometimes have to wait longer than we want.
Yeah.
And sometimes not to get the desires of our heart in the form that we wanted them or expected them.
I mean, that is, I feel like we could go on and on those stories just from our personal life too.
Yeah.
So maybe there are things that in this conversation connected with y'all as an audience, as you're listening or watching, something that resonated, or maybe something you want to know more. I feel like we could have gone a whole nother
lot
hour.
of directions.
It's
Yep.
so many different directions talking about this. And so maybe we can kind of come back to this conversation, but we want to come back to it with knowing what hit y'all as listeners, as audience, you know, what hit you, what resonated with you, what questions did it spark in your heart?
Yeah.
And then share those questions with us. We want to
know.
keep going off of what y'all are asking. The questions, that's the whole point. The questions you're asking in life. And so ask us some good questions.
Yeah, bring it.
Challenge us a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I actually think this is a really big conversation, not just for younger people, but in different seasons of life, right? We're asking a lot of these same questions of maybe even purpose or calling or dreams, and have they died or whatnot.
Yeah.
So send us your questions. You can DM us, you can email us, you can drop them in the comments below. But we want to hear from you.
Yep. That'd be great. All right. Well, thanks for joining us on When We Walk. We can't wait to be with you next time.